Hey y'all, hey y'all, hey y'all, what's up? What's up? This
Hey.
this is the full set, kind of. This this is still gonna be a lituation. My name, if y'all don't know it, is Dee Delgado. I'm your host X with the most X. And I am just going to let y'all know that this is going to be an amazing show. I feel like there is a movie that I want to quote from. It's just totally appropriate. The Color Purple. When Miss Sophia says, "All my life I had to fight," getting here to getting here. Jumoke was like, "Don't do it, Sim. Don't do it." Okay, just getting here was a little bit of a struggle, but I am very glad that we're here, and this is the
Mm.
place that we do need to be. So, thank y'all both for joining me. I would like to introduce you both, but I have to make sure that my orientation on the phone is cool. Okay, so the triple cripples. Okay, I'm just so excited to have y'all here. Like, it goes beyond without saying that I was shocked when you said yes that you would come on the show. I really was shocked because y'all are out here. I'm gonna tell you why. Y'all are out here doing. We're gonna get into what y'all are doing, but y'all were out here doing TEDx talks, and I'm like, Ted don't even know my fucking name. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even know if it's a nigga named Ted or not. So just seeing y'all and knowing how intersectional you are, it your TEDx talks changed my life. So with me today, I have my esteemed colleagues, Kym Oliver and Jumoke Abdullahi, right?
Yeah.
All right, you're gonna correct me. I feel it. I feel like you're just gonna be like,
I know it's Jumoke. You were
Jumoke,
very close. Jumoke.
Jumoke.
No,
You
no,
don't want me to, yeah,
Jumoke.
you don't want me to say it like that. Okay, all right. So thank you. The Triple Cripples was created by two disabled Black women, for women, femmes, and non-binary POC, living with disabilities each and every day, whose stories remain hidden from view. This dynamic duo, Kym Oliver and Jumoke Abdullahi, were frustrated with the lack of representation and unaddressed discrimination faced by Black and non-Black people of color. It had a U in it, so I felt like I had to say it just like that. Living with disabilities. They joined forces and created a platform to increase visibility and highlight the narratives of this invisible population within an invisible population. With topical videos, spotlight interviews, workshops, talks, and lectures on topics ranging from relationships to travel. This lovable duo, did y'all write this yourselves? This lovable duo has gained steady recognition for their insight and charisma. Jamoke is like, yes, we did write it ourselves. The lovable duo has gained steady recognition for their insight and charisma, featured on international platforms such as BBC, AJ Plus, Vogue, Metro, and consulted for their invaluable perspectives in both academic and corporate circles. Oxford University at the Bridge of Sighs, Cambridge University, Disability Leadership Institute, and WOW. Black disabled culture cognoscenti, Kym and Jumoke, are relentless in their pursuit to transform the outcomes of those here and yet to come. Y'all better follow them on Insta and Twitter at the Triple Cripples, Facebook and YouTube at the Triple Cripples, and y'all better put that PayPal.me link /Triple Cripples. Y'all, how the fuck are you doing?
We're wonderful. I wonder, like, I'm really honored that you wrote that bio for us. It was a fanfare of sorts. I love it.
Kym came here to misbehave. I just said, yeah,
I'm here for the shits. I don't know why you so against it. Since day one, when Kym put on her glasses, Jumoke is like, I'm not doing this with either one of y'all today.
I am
I need to take these glasses off. I feel like it's ruining my my brain. I'm just like, yeah, everything for the joke. Okay, this I've swapped out now. But they were cool, right?
They were cool. They're still
Sunglasses
cool.
at night.
Yes, and we
It's a look.
discussed
It's
this.
a look.
It's a look, and that whoever, I want to say that was Chris Isaacs, but it's not. I feel like a lot of white people look alike to me, but I feel like, you know, he stole that from a Black person. So I mean, whatever. It was probably a vibe before he created. He Columbused it.
Yeah, obviously. I don't know who did it first, but I felt so comfortable just now that I feel like it has to be somewhere in my ancestry, and so
Mm.
yeah.
So I have a question for you because I feel like this is not an interview. Like let's just get that straight. Whatever.
Okay,
Like
good, because
I don't
it
even no, I don't know how to interview people. I laugh too much. I snort. Like, it's just it's not a good look or whatever. So
Dee with the shits. Okay, let's get into it.
so I want to know how y'all met each other. Like how did the two of you coalesce into like you're individuals, but y'all came together for this collective identity, right? And y'all was so collective when you first joined the Zoom call. The fuck, y'all was both named the Triple Cripples. Like, I mean, it's just too much for me, really.
Do you know what? Do you want the truth? Because I can tell you the true story. Jumoke always lies to everyone when they ask.
Look, Kym,
I
no,
don't
go
know. It's
ahead.
like
The floor is
she's
yours. Like you're
ashamed. It's
doing too
almost like
much.
she's
I mean,
ashamed
I'm
of her own
really
actions.
surprised by the shadiness that just occurred on this show because Jumoke literally never said that those glasses belonged to her, and yet here you are,
Wow, Didi, is this what you're doing?
and here you are being like, this one always lies. like,
It's because, do you know why she couldn't
I
say
can't leave
anything
you
about
out
the
there like that,
glasses?
so
Because
go
she
ahead.
destroyed my no. If we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this. She couldn't say anything because I've kept hers in good condition. She
Mm.
broke mine. Okay, so let's
Oh, you're a
anyway.
habitual glasses breaker.
No,
Oh yeah,
what
yeah.
I will say, since Kym has a lot of energy, surprisingly, for after 1 a.m. London
Thank y'all
time.
so much. Oh my goodness.
When, for me, we did a sunglasses exchange. So we just exchanged sunglasses. So they became your sunglasses, and the green ones became my sunglasses.
Just because you were wearing them all the time doesn't mean they were suddenly yours. To care, like.
Was there a
You no,
transference
no,
of
I don't know
ownership?
why. No, we need to do this. I don't know why you're trying to forget a crowd talking about it's like, oh yeah, let's do an exchange. That's what an exchange is. That's
I
what
think
it
that's what
is.
Bryson Tiller was discussing. It was an exchange.
Oh, I love that, man, and those unnecessary pauses. Mm.
Don't.
I love that. So
Yeah, and I
how we
always
met,
miss it. I
right?
think I've only been able to catch it once. Once I was like,
Mm.
don't, and I caught it. I lost my shit. Sorry, like,
You're
so
like,
I'm
I did
running
it, I
around
did
the
it, I
room.
did it. Oh my goodness.
I'm
So
I'm
how
I'm
did
trying to I'm
the
trying to
truth
stay
and a
on
lie?
track.
To the truth and
So
a lie. So both of y'all
okay.
can be represented.
Oh.
Okay, here's Kym with the lie. Go ahead, baby.
No, I'm telling the truth. So I was minding my business on my side of the
Mm.
internet, and just I was doing these videos to, I don't know, raise awareness about my experience as a young Black disabled person at the time. I didn't know any, no one in my life really had proximity to any, and so like there was a lot of, can I swear? A lot of bad stuff that
Why can't you
was
just say
going.
shit?
Well, because I'm trying to learn how to articulate myself without using curse words. I used to a lot, and now it's just become so easy because I'm old enough to swear now. And my parents don't watch any of the things that I do, so it's like it's really easy. But yeah, so a lot of stuff, there was a lot of stuff that people didn't understand, and it was getting really frustrating because coming from me, this newly differently marginalized person, whom before had not been marginalized, therefore they were able to listen to, suddenly they couldn't hear me. I was in a position that meant that all of the kind of gravitas that my words carried before just had disappeared into the ether. And it was frustrating. It also, and I was just like, rah, I don't want, I'm sure there are other people in the world. It's very easy to think that you're the only person going through something, but I genuinely believe there are other people in the world who might be going through something similar. And so I was thinking of things that would have helped me at the beginning. And so I was like, actually, let me just do, I was encouraged by someone that was placing themselves inside me from time to time. And they were like, yeah, you should really totally talk about this. And I was like, yeah, because they were tired of me talking to them about it. So I went on the internet.
Rude.
Yeah. And it was a way of kind of raising awareness, but also kind of an indirect shade-like thing towards folks in my life who weren't listening to me. So I was hoping they would accidentally find these videos and accidentally watch them and be like, oh, I was so wrong, I'm a jackass. And Jumoke somehow found me through that. She started liking all of these videos. And you know, when on Instagram, you just see when someone goes through your whole page and they're just liking every single thing. Like I just saw a whole load of those and I was like, stalker much.
I was gonna say it, but I didn't want to be rude to Jumoke. I'm so sorry, but I'm gonna now say what the fuck I feel.
And the thing is, the worst thing is, because I wasn't internet savvy at all in that way, I wasn't into social media like that, like I had not seen that before, and so I automatically was like, stranger danger, obviously.
All right, kindergarten cop.
Thank you. And then it came, you know, it got really real, because then here I see the same person who stalked my almost entire page in my inbox, like message requests. And I was just like, I don't know whether I should open this or not. This could be a death threat. I didn't realize I'd blow up so quickly. I had like
know what your sign is so bad. I feel like you're a Pisces, but go ahead.
In it, no, and in it, not that there's anything wrong with Pisces people.
There's nothing wrong with Pisces people.
No, and so I read the message. It was full of, oh, you're so wonderful. I love you so much. You're the most amazing person. Can I breathe your air? All of this kind of stuff. It was really weird. And I was like, you know what? Let me give this weirdo a chance. And
so you're
here we are.
Too.
Like, it's...
oh my God.
It's her face.
I really feel like we should hold space for Jumoke, because that was a lot to hear. There may have been some inaccuracies by the way that you're looking at the screen, is all I'm gonna say.
Well, what I will say, in addition to the fable that Kym has just spun for us all,
it sounded very romantic.
I will say that the Triple Cripples is a brainchild of both myself and of Kym, but it would have never gotten started had I not reached out.
It's true.
That's all I have to say.
That is a very anchoring statement. You know, don't let Kym play you. You just gotta not let it happen ever again.
Yeah, oh no, it will happen again. That's who she is.
It'll happen.
I was gonna do that anyway. I was gonna do that anyway, because that's how I am. You see her? That's how she is. So yeah.
So watching okay, so like I want to go back a little bit. First of all, thank you. Not just for appearing on the show, but the way that y'all just moved in relationship with me was really meaningful. And I'm trying not to get emotional, because today has just been a shitty day overall. I haven't even checked in with y'all, asking how you doing. COVID is a real thing. I feel like people on your side of the world kind of know that COVID is a real thing, and so they're being more serious than people over here on this side. And so like I just want to check in with y'all, because y'all really held space for me just now. My Zoom wasn't working. I'm having feelings because y'all Zoom is working. I really don't know what's happening here. So how are y'all doing today? Like really, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm tired, but I'm good. How are you, Jimmy?
I'm okay. I've been surprisingly busy. I've been very busy, actually. But I'm okay. You know, we thank God for life. And tomorrow, well, today is a new day. So I'm always excited about the potential a new day brings. And we're in a new month. So yeah,
Happy new month to you.
Yes.
Yeah, happy new month. It's my birthday soon, Jumoke. I just wanted to remind you.
See, I wasn't,
and everyone,
because I was thinking of
this.
saying it, but then I was like, you know, this isn't for me to say. Like, if Kym wants them to know it's her birthday month, Kym will let them know. And Kym has let them know.
What is the birthday day?
13th
of September. Are you a Virgo?
Yes.
I would have never
Oh,
guessed.
She is a Virgo, capital V, bold, underline, everything. Like, so aggressive with it too. But that's not
there was a lot of in that.
But that's not why we're here.
Okay, so I want to ask you, So the thing that I want to say thank you for was not just the way that y'all worked through it, but something that you said in your TEDx talk really struck out to me, is that the reason why you call yourself triple cripples is because not only are your intersections that you are Black women or Black femmes, but that you are disabled, and also that Black is a separate, is a togetherness, you know, when we talk about intersectionality. But when you're a Black woman and disabled, those three things are really, really debilitating on their own. And I don't want to say it like that, but I walk through the world as someone who lives with a silent disability. And so hearing you say that really touched me. And that's why when I heard it 4 days ago, I was like, oh my gosh, like, I can't wait to talk to y'all. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you were a suggestion, and then I heard you speak, and I was like, this is what I needed. This is what a lot of people need. And so I just want to thank you for doing the work. And like, how do you address systemic racism with gendered fucking normativity? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how Kym was like, I don't know how the fuck we address it. But what work are y'all doing to address these issues? Because I heard, you know, people be telling me on my Facebook all the time that like America is the only one with racism. You know, Britain, the capital of colonization, has no problem with racism. And I'm like, have y'all asked Black Brits?
That. What's that mean? Who said that? Who said that? Who said that? That is such, and you know, we always say this, the UK is so good at their PR. They're so good. PR giants, like no one else does PR that like the UK does, because somehow they've managed to convince the rest of the world, despite the rest of the world's experience of them, that this place is some kind of utopia and kind of a moral benchmark for the rest of the world, right? And you know, they're so progressive and they know so much about how things should be, and they actually have never done anything. And oh my gosh, look at America. Oh, only in America. It's terrible. Right. Look at what they're doing. Look at their president. And they do this with every other nation on the world. They're constantly pointing out, and very rarely looking in. And even the conversations that go on within the nation are gaslight central. They're always like, does racism exist in Britain? Despite statistics backing the fact that racism exists in Britain, they'll have full-on debates on TV about whether it exists, not the extent to which it exists, but whether it exists at all. And that's been going on, as long as I've been alive, that's been going on, the same type of conversation, right? And so what that does, even in the minds of the people who are living here, even those who are subject to racism day in and day out, that convinces you that perhaps it's all in your mind. It is not, it is, yeah, it's not what it is. So, yes, there is racism. I mean, as you said, like this is the seat of colonialism. This is the place that are the kind of prime originators. I mean, America wouldn't be America if England hadn't gone to colonize it. Do you know what I mean? Like this is, we're not.
I was like, one of these things is not like the other things.
Exactly. It doesn't. This is the birth of that kind of stuff in a lot of ways. Yes, Europe was involved, of course, heavily, and we ignore that sometimes. The involvement of the rest of Europe in colonization as well, and enslavement especially. But England still has colonies. So the island that my father's from is still a colony. Like there are not. We can't. It's like. We can't ignore facts and be like, oh, we live in an alternate universe where these things can coexist. You can't have colonies and not be imperialist. You can't have colonies and not have at least a racist past of some kind. Do you know what I mean? The whole idea of colonization is not one of joining a community that you enter and integrating. That's not what it is. So yes, it is horrific over here, and our statistics, as we said, reflect that. whether we're talking about healthcare, whether we're talking about education, whether we're
Right.
talking about police brutality, all the things that we talk about that racism affects
Are
housing.
police brutal in London?
Yes,
So,
but they're brutal in a different way. They're brutal once you
in a
get
different way.
into the prison.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So most of our deaths occur in police custody. They don't occur on the street. Like, and also our police don't carry guns. They have tasers, they have batons, they can debilitate you, but most of the things that go on don't go on in plain sight. Another feature of UK's great PR that's built
Y'all
into
got
every.
customizable racism.
Yeah. And it's every system that it has, they've built in into all of the systems this amazing PR front, because you see, not only it has a double-pronged effect, right? You see the police, and it kind of automatically, police presence is heavy in London especially. There are police everywhere. Like, you go and there's a police van here, there's a police car here. Police are always around the place. So there's this police presence that's here. So there's always this sense of do the right thing because the police are just around the corner. Brilliant PR. It's brilliant, and brilliant programming.
I feel like
Gets
Spike
control.
Lee may have worked on Britain's PR.
Yeah. Yes. It's really clever if you think about it. But then that also gives people a feeling, for those who have been programmed to feel that the police provide safety, it gives people a sense that, okay, there is safety here. But then for those who the police have been weaponized against, it's a constant feeling of anxiety, right, and dread. But what happens is, and what I meant by the good PR is that when they are doing what they're doing, it's very rarely kind of in the theatrical, we'll say, by comparison, ways that American police go on. It's most of the stuff that, and the ways in which they're oppressive. And English culture is very different. I'm not going to necessarily say, call you or shout at you and call you all sorts of names.
Right.
I just might very much insist that you show me your license and what are we doing here? So, for example, a typical traffic stop, when you watch any of the ones that you see on the cop cameras, most of the time you see a typical, where no one dies, the ones that you see for Americans, the police will be outside of the car, they'll be requesting things, they'll be talking to them saying, okay, look, give me this, give me that, give me the other, and depending on what happens, something happens. Here, you'll have the police come up and pretend to be friends with you. They'll be like, oh, so how, one of them at least will come and pretend to be friends with you, one on one side, one on the other side.
Will they
and
offer you a tea and biscuit?
No, but they'll be like, oh, you're right there, how you doing?
Is that racist?
You're like, no, it wasn't.
I'm mad that you answered my fucking question.
No, it's fine. It's not racist at all. It's not possible because it's British. It's English people. It's not possible for us to be racist against them. Anyway, so the policeman will then lean into the car. So already your personal space is invaded. You're already intimidated, but you don't know. They'll lean right in. Their face next to your face. Oh, let's have a look. How are you doing, son? Use language that they think applies to your demographic. You all right, son? Yes, what you guys doing around? You chilling? Then the bad cop will come around the other side and be like, oh, I know your sort, and start kind of antagonizing you. So you're automatically thinking that this person who's actually intimidating you by invading your space and requesting that you pass them information is the good guy, despite the fact that they're violating you already. Right. Doesn't matter if there are children in the car, it doesn't matter. And so that kind of thing occurs. And because they're not using inflammatory language, one might think, oh, they're being cordial, but it's the tone. Here it's about tone, it's about choice of words, it's about the knowledge of the what is meant behind the word. I know your sort means I know your sort, as in you particular, your black skin and what that carries and what that means. But I'm not going to say, I know what people like you, black people do. I'm going to say, oh, I know what your sort are like. And when I say, oh, when you say it's racist, oh, no, mate, I've got black friends. Some of the men on the force are black. Like, what are you talking about? Like, this is England, mate. Like, you've got a chip on your shoulder. And then the reverse psychology. But then if you resist, I'm not gonna like baton you on the side of the road necessarily. What I might do is maybe aggressively take you into police custody, but all of the beating and bruises and suffocation is going to happen in the back of that police van, or going to happen at the actual station. That isn't going to happen in the view of all of these cameras. That isn't going to happen in a place where lots of people are around and could cause a disturbance. Like, it's proper gang stuff. That they operate like an actual mob. They don't operate like
Right.
it's a very, and so what you'll see is that a lot of people will see maybe 10 policemen can come for one person here. And people now think it's normal. And you can see 10 policemen around like maybe 2 or 3 teenage boys.
They've been desensitized against
They've been
it.
desensitized because they've been stopping children and searching them since they were in primary school. When I was in primary school, they used to stop and search little young black boys all the time. You'd see these little primary school children
Right.
being questioned by police. And so now it's just, we're so used to it. You see it all the time. You see it and you think, oh, probably done something, because that's, if you see police, it must be because someone's wrong, right? So it's just different the way it happens. And I think because of that and the way it doesn't get reported here, we haven't got as big a black population. And so the way black news gets disseminated
We're just
is totally different.
3% black people over here in the UK, and half of that 3% is in London.
That's what I was gonna say, because when we went to Oxford, they were like, other than the person that hosted us, there were no other black people in Oxford.
It's just, it's a wild, and it makes you kind of think about how it's possible. So the statistics, unfortunately, I wish I'd known we'd talk about this.
No,
but the statistics
we don't even have to talk about this, because I'd rather know, like, what does it feel like as like black women who are living with disabilities? Like, how are you policed? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, is it the ableism that's worse than actual, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what is it?
Jimmy, I feel like I've been in radio, and I want you to be able to express yourself, your cute little hood.
Beautiful.
Well, this is something that outside of the triple cripples that I've talked about before, and I've written about it as well. So for me, being disabled, while obviously still being black, my disability is oftentimes what is noticed first of all. So I mobilize using a leg brace on my left leg and two crutches. So like when you look at me, and I'm short as well, so when you look at me, I'm not the go-to target for the police. I can't run, and most importantly, I look like I can't run because optics are everything. So when I was growing up in my childhood, like I'd heard other people talking about what Kym had described, but I'd never felt it. Like I'd never experienced that. So often, because I have terrible sense of direction, like if I was lost, I would go to the nearest police officer, be like, hey, I have no idea where the flip I am. Like, can you point me in the right direction?
Y'all are just so anti-cursing, but go ahead.
This is so anti-what?
I said, y'all are just so anti-cursing, but go ahead.
No, it's just,
where the flip I am.
Where the flip I am. But it's just, for me, it was a case of, for me back then, there was no fear associated with approaching a police officer. And I did the same in the US as well. It's like, I'm in New York for the very first time. I don't know where XYZ place is. Can you point me in the right direction? And they were always very nice to me because of the way that I looked. It's like, oh yeah, you know, like, don't worry about it, sweetheart. It's right over here. Do this, do that. It's like, oh, if you want, like, I can help you even further. Like, people will go, police would go out of their way. Now, this isn't to say that, you know, I was stopping police here, there, everywhere. But it was, for me, there was never any fear associated with the presence of a police officer. And a lot of that is due to the way that I look, because black skin, I was just kind of like, oh, you know, there's trouble, there's danger, there's violence, aggression, whatever. but in my specific packaging, like my disability immediately like annihilates anything like that. I mean, unless I'm stood next to a disabled, pretty white blonde woman, then, you know, maybe the odds
Right.
kind of flip less so in my favor.
Get over here, nigger. Like, I mean, like, it just changes the dynamic.
But it's just, so for me, it wasn't until I was older, because I'd heard people talking about it, but I couldn't relate. It wasn't until I was older and watching the news more, and all the names and all the hashtags kept popping up, kept popping up, kept popping up. And there was obviously one thing that was uniting all of them. And as a disabled Black woman, let's say like outside of police presence and whatever have you, I will say that my disability is noticed often a lot more. People just ask like, oh, what happened to you? What happened to your leg? What? I mean, even now in the age of our Lord coronavirus, like I was walking towards home and this woman, she had a mask on, and she took down the mask to ask me if I had a fracture. I was like,
You were like, bitch, put your mask back up. Like,
it was just so, but it's because people see the disability first, and I don't seem threatening. I seem like the kind of person, and I have the kind of face is like, oh, she'll talk to me. Like strangers like just roll up on me and just start a full-on conversation,
right.
even though I'm like, no, please don't do that. But because of the way that I was brought up, like if somebody asks me, how are you? Even though I don't actually care and I don't want to know, I will also ask you how you are. And if you can, like, you have to get us out of this conversation because I won't be the one to end it. And I hate that, but I can't stop.
What's your sign?
My sign, baby girl's a Capricorn.
Really? I would have thought you was a Scorpio. You got a lot of Scorpio in your chart. I feel it.
Really? Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to
like,
get some counting, I suppose.
I feel
but yeah, so it's just for me, people, I will say oftentimes my Blackness is the last thing that's noticed unless I'm in a group of Black people. And even then, that also happens. It's just kind of like, what happened to your leg? Like the disability is always the focus. It's always the thing that pulls people in and starts the conversation, which is unfortunate. But
yeah. And this is the good thing about Jay and I being around each other, is because it's the complete opposite for me. Like, and also I think my contrasting experiences. So to go back to what Jumoke was saying, like I grew up knowing that the police were a danger, knowing that they were not to be trusted, knowing that I couldn't rely on them, knowing that I couldn't trust them, knowing that if they turned up, like nothing good was going to come out of it for anyone, based on the environment that I grew up in, based on the things that I'd seen happen. Like I lived in an area where young people were getting snatched off, especially off the street, and being put in mental institutions after the police had accused them of resisting arrest for no reason. Like, you're coming to arrest someone for no reason. They don't know why you're arresting them. They're like, no, I don't want to be arrested. Then you're like, oh, resisting arrest. You must have mental health issues, locking them up, pumping them full of drugs, and then releasing them back into the community, or keeping them locked up forever. So, and that's a real thing that was going on in London, like, and probably in other places as well, but I know that was going on in my area in North London. So I had grown up knowing that. And also because I was quite tall and big, before I grew breasts, I would get misgendered a lot. Like people would be like, they would think I was a dude. So, or they'd call me a dude. I don't know if they thought I was a dude, but the default was to refer to me the way they'd refer to men. And so there was a part of me that was always aware that if I got misgendered, I guess, or someone misunderstood what it was that I looked like, I could end up like some of the boys I saw getting held up against the walls when I was on my way home from school, you know, and those kinds of things. And also knowing that, you know, that wasn't a decent thing. And also looking at how Black people not only were treated, but how they were viewed, how they were portrayed in the news all the time, and how those portrayals seemed to apply to everyone, including my father. Even though my father was nothing like the people they described, they give descriptions on TV like, a woman was mugged the other day by black man, height 5'9" to 6'2", like
That's very
wearing
broad.
brown coat. Like, yeah, it's just
It's very broad.
what that does in your mind is go, every black man. Like this, that's literally what it is.
There's 5'9", 5'10", 5'11", 6'1", 6
Thank
foot. Like, I
And
mean,
most
there's just
people,
so much.
and most people don't know what someone's height is to look at them. So it's like,
Oh,
all I
that
know is
nigga
that the
over
person
there
is
is
black.
6 foot. Like, yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
So and that programs not just your mind, but the minds of everyone around you, including the people who you look like, right? So I knew that when I became disabled, because I became disabled later in life, unlike Jumoke, like the kinds of, I had been experiencing racism, so I already knew what that was, right? And even I used to be in music, and we sometimes on tour, like when you go places like to different countries, you experience racismo, you know, and it's like, wow. And in more overt ways than you'd ever experience in England in some ways, but in England I'd experienced overt racism as well, directly, personally. So I already, my blackness, for the most part, was, for me at least in my personal life, was in front of my womanhood. I didn't get to be a woman first. I was black first, and then womanhood might have come afterwards, depending on the situation, right? When I became disabled, my blackness was still at the front, but it was almost like the disability changed the nature of my blackness. So whereas before my blackness, as Jumoke was saying, it was this kind of threatening, because I'm quite tall. I'm like 6'1". My
Say
brother
the full
doesn't
thing.
wanna.
Say the
Do you know
full
what?
thing.
6'1", son. Anyway, so my brothers, my brothers, like, don't necessarily agree, but that whole being tall and big thing was a huge part of my identity, and a huge part of how I moved through the world. And knowing that people thought that it was intimidating, and knowing that people thought it was scary, and knowing that people sometimes, before they realized there's a woman, crossed over the road because they didn't want to walk on the same side of the road as me because I was a threat, all of a sudden that was gone, right? And here I am sitting in a chair, and it's almost like people were like, aha, now I don't need to be afraid of this big black scary thing. They are disempowered. So now
Yeah.
I
It's
feel
like the threat
powerful.
has been neutralized by the
Yeah,
disability.
yes. So I feel powerful. So now I'm above you. So now all the racism that I wanted to direct at you when you were standing up, but I was scared that you might deck me, oh, you're sitting down. You're a sitting duck, mate. Like, I can really go to town. And also because I know how the disabled community are viewed over here, and they're not valued. I know that no one is going to come to your aid. No one cares enough to even intervene. No one cares enough to stop this from happening. So not only are you disabled, but you're also black. No one likes you anyway. So it's almost like a free pass for me to do and say and act how I want. And that's literally what I started experiencing. So, and it was very difficult to understand at first, because it's like, what is this? Why can't you hear me when I speak? Oh, but you're going to talk at me. And then you're going to say all of these things that you would never say to someone about who they are supposed to be or what they're supposed to be. Like, listen, there are so many things there are so many examples I have that now when I think about them, I'm like, wow, I should be writing so many letters and suing so many departments, especially in the NHS, based on some of the things that I've been through with them, at least. And it's an interesting thing. And so comparing Jumoke and I's experiences are quite interesting, because as she said, she moves through the world in a different way. Even though we're both disabled, I still move through the world in a different way. I'm bigger, I'm darker than her, I'm taller than her, I'm fatter than her. Like, so the way in which people perceive my disability is completely different. A lot of the time, if you're fat and you're in a wheelchair, people are like, oh, you fucking gave up. Like, you just eat too much. You're in a wheelchair because you're fat. Like, it's some of that is what happens. And there's this, and also because of my size, and black women in general have been have been masculinized, right? And so, and it's, if we even talk about like what happened during slavery in terms of them being able to do the same work that men were doing, that then became demonized, right? So they were like, oh, let's try and make that a bad thing. And so that carries over, and then they try and make it out like we don't feel pain, that we're just these kind of animalistic things that love to fuck everyone, even though we're getting raped and all this kind of stuff. And all of those things get tied into my presentation, right? And so here I am, this big black dark-skinned woman who's also supposed to be your mother, but also supposed to be the object for your weird sexual fantasies. And I'm here, and also I'm this disempowered bear, right? So there is so much that goes on when people interact with me, and so much disregarding of the fact that I could possibly have needs, that I could possibly be delicate and need protecting, that I could possibly experience pain. None of that exists in the space that I live in because of my presentation, even though I'm in a wheelchair, which is not necessarily the same for my white counterparts all the time. Maybe if they're big, sometimes there is certain attitudes towards them being fat. But in terms of the other stuff that goes with it, that comes with it because I'm a black woman, not because just because I'm black, but because I'm a black woman, they will never experience that. And in some ways, sometimes some of those things Jumoke won't experience just because she's so small. And that it goes hand in hand with the infantilization of disabled people. Infantilization, and you're small, so I get to pretend that there is, that I am being kind, that I'm being gentle, that I'm looking after you. Do you need help with that? Can I help you? And then I get to feel good, even though I don't treat Black infants with that love and care, right?
Kym breaking it all the way down for the folks.
We can't hear you,
Dee
Dee.
I think you might be on mute. Can't hear you. Although it doesn't show that you're on mute. Try again. Oh, wow. That is unfortunate. Let me. Wow. And because the thing is, we're recording.
Is it me? It's not me. It's.
No.
Hold on, you're just really quiet, Dee. Have you turned something down?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
perfect.
Okay.
So
wow,
weird.
This entire thing is just.
So my team just sent me. I'm gonna pop a Brussels sprout in my mouth because I'm fucking hungry. Okay. My team just sent me, and I sent it to y'all, that Zoom apparently decided that today. So Jumoke was right, that the powers that be that working against us, really, they didn't want us to have this conversation, but I'm going to do the best I can to promote this episode so hard. Like, I'm going to go hard in the paint. What I was going to say, well, I went to my settings, and there's something that says automatically adjust the microphone. Fuck that shit. We just took it off, right? Yeah. And I raised it up. So growing up, first of all, the fact that the both of you are doing this labor as dark-skinned women is beyond me. So thank you. Growing up, I was never allowed to participate in school activities, any kind of physical activities. I was born with third degree atrioventricular block, which is, you know, if you know about your heart or whatever, I'm missing a heart valve. So I was born, you know, doctors would say, she has a deformity, like, you know what I'm saying? She can't do anything. Like, you know, I was told I wouldn't be able to have sex, that I couldn't ride a roller coaster. And it really comes down to Blackness, because they would never tell a white child that, you know, at all. And I'm having a lot of sex, and I don't like roller coasters.
I was gonna ask, but I didn't want to be in a, so.
But I will say, also on top of that, if the disability within the white child meant that they couldn't or shouldn't do those things, they would go, as you like to put it, harder in the paint to try and make sure that they could live a quote unquote normal life than they would for you. It's like, oh, this is just what happens to you. It's like, but for you, I will move.
No one gave a fuck about me.
There you go.
No one gave a fuck about me so much. I can't believe I'm eating these dope ass Brussels sprouts. Thank you, Ada. No one gave a fuck about me so much so that the doctors had been telling my mother that not to expect a lot of life, not to expect me to live longer than 20 years old. None of this. And it turned out, like, we lived in Pensacola, Florida, which is super fucking Republican state, like, and it turned out that when we moved back to Boston, that the doctors there were like, you need, your heartbeat is like 44 beats per minute. That's like almost dead. Like, this whole entire time, like, you could have been living a full life if you would just have the surgery. And so, anyways, I basically am bionic woman now, or whatever. I am walking around fully dependent on a pacemaker, and, I think about how that shows up with fat phobia. Like a lot of what you just said, Kym, resonates with me. And a lot of what Jumoke was saying too is also still in it, right? Because when I was sick, and people knew you can't do anything, like, you're gonna burst the other three heart vessels. Like, people did so much shit for me. But now that I have the pacemaker, niggas is like, do it yourself, and you're fat because you eat too much, or you do this, or you do that. And I'm just like, wow, I have lymphedema, like, I have a lot of debilitating medical conditions that don't, no cure for them, just gonna be what they are, like, and so hearing y'all talk about like being Black femmes and being police, not only by the actual police, but how people show up in your lives, right? And you mentioned COVID. How is COVID complicating things for you? Or do you feel like you fly under the radar because people are not really making allowances for disabled people to thrive anyways?
I will say, like when things, at least over here, started being taken seriously, I will say, because it had already been, people have been made aware of it in China the previous year in 2019. It was posited as something that was like a really bad flu, like a really, really bad cold, like it'll knock you off your feet for however long, but you'll get over it. And
Right.
the way that they were trying to reassure the general population was that it'll only affect those that are vulnerable anyway. Vulnerable being
Immunocompromised.
disabled, those that have underlying health conditions, the elderly, and people that are generally seen as weaker and more vulnerable. And I mean, first of all, that's terrible on the face of it. But what it created as well, and they also mentioned the age a lot, talking about how it would specifically, affect older people more so, is that it created an arrogance. And it seemed to be like a global arrogance as well, where it's just kind of like, okay, we'll just lock up the over 65s, but we can just go along
Right.
with our lives and, if the Rona happens to catch you, you'll just deal with it with your super immune system and your young, fit 20, 30, 40 something year old body, and you will be fine. And a lot of people, and quality of life is something that's always mentioned whenever talking about people that are disabled. It's like, oh, they can't do this, they can't do that, their quality of life will be very much diminished. Whereas, like if we actually look at it, qualitatively, some disabled people are able to have a much better quality of life than somebody that might not have a disability or might not have an obvious disability. But there's this kind of like label and stigma associated with it, where if and for disabled people with the case of DNR, so do not resuscitate orders, there was a fear that not only was there the fear of catching COVID and dying, or catching COVID and needing medical attention, and the medical attention not being given to you because they have deemed it not worthy to save your life. Like, I'm not going to essentially waste medical resources, time, effort, energy, money, whatever, on you, where I could actually be helping and saving this healthy person. So that was something that was really quite difficult to handle and grasp with. And for a very, very, very long time, like like many people, like when the lockdown happened, because it happened, I believe, late March, I think March 29th, thereabouts. And everything like for like it shut down, like nobody was on the streets. And you haven't been in London before, like it's busy. There's always somebody around regardless of the time. And then people were just starting to get cabin fever, but now
Right.
they were experiencing life the way quite a number of disabled
Disabled
people had,
folks.
especially, yeah, especially those that had conditions that meant that they were more immunocompromised than, you know, the next person. So I have to be very careful. I've always been extra careful about washing my hands, about who comes into my house, about you taking off your shoes, about X, Y, and Z. All of these things
Right.
were being factored in, and I wasn't able to go out and see my friends and my family because the world has been so structured in a way that it's been designed so I'm locked away so that you won't have to see the poor cripple, right? So yeah, in that sense, it was really difficult to see the government. I will say it wasn't difficult for me as a Black person because, you know, they don't give a shit anyway. Like that's just something you're aware of. But for a lot of people and a lot of white disabled people, white older people, they're like, oh, you don't give a fuck like that. And it's like, yes, welcome. Where have you been? In white supremacy land. But
And then they still won't fucking join your cause.
no, absolutely not. No, they would sooner die. And then I'm like, go ahead. But anyway, like
Yes.
I'm not trying to save you, but yeah, it was all very interesting. And it still all is very interesting because whiteness will do what it needs to do to preserve itself. Let's just say that.
It's very refreshing to hear Black women come on the show and describe whiteness and talk about it very candidly. I appreciate it. I want to talk about food because whiteness, I've been dealing with it all day and I'm extremely hungry, as you can see. So I know that on your website, both of you discuss food immensely. So what is the deal? Who is the better cook? Jumoke's face. What was that? What did I stumble across?
What I will say is,
Okay.
I can cook to feed myself and others if need be. Whether they find it or delicious or not, that's their own problem. But I was born to be catered for. So I'm not trying to cook. I'm not trying to clean. Once I get the ring, I'll tell you how I got it. Exactly, bling, bling. I love food. I love eating. I'm a gourmand. I gain like great pleasure from food. I'll be eating a meal and thinking about my next one, planning it, looking at menus. Like food, apart from traveling, like food is my life. Like the best situation for me is to be eating abroad. Like that is like perfection for me. I just want somebody to cook for me. Like whoever's watching this and they happen to be a chef, like holla man, because I'm trying to eat. I'm trying to be
trying to eat.
I'm trying to be like cater to you, but you cater to me. Like, yeah, I don't want to work. So yeah, that's my feelings on that. And it's not.
Now I understand this. It was a sheer look of terror. That's what that was.
I had to get there before Kym started talking. I was like, uh-oh.
Let me set the narrative now.
Yeah, you know, lay their foundation nicely. Go ahead, Kym, it's your turn now.
No, I don't. I mean, I don't. I'm a vegan. That's about it when it comes to like my food choices. I talk about food only when I'm trying to learn new recipes, maybe, or when I fancy something, or when I'm talking about the nutritional benefits of something, or what I don't consider food. That's when I talk about it, but I'm not really. I think I find food an interesting cultural phenomena. Our relationships to it, how they relate to our emotions, how they shape some of our social circles and situations we find ourselves in, how they affect our brain chemistry, all of those things. I find that all very fascinating, but I think even ever more fascinating, especially since becoming a vegan, like is people's how people's attitudes are, okay, I don't want to, especially when it comes to talking about being plant-based or whatever, like people conflate Black folks who are plant-based with white folks who are plant-based. It's not the same thing.
I think it's a little different.
It's very different. It's a completely different world in the sense that the way in which I think we experience being plant-based is a bit different. And also,
I think y'all are
if
also, I
people,
think Black vegans are less classist than white vegans.
that's because we don't often get to be as classist. Like, even we're still Black. Like, I think, and that's what we say, Black is one of those things, just like disability, that kind of cuts across everything. We're still Black, right? And I think also the idea of when people are talking about veganism, a lot of white vegans talking about ethical veganism and, you know, the liberation of animals. Wonderful. Black liberation and animal liberation are tied together. So if you're for the liberation of animals and you're not for the liberation of Black and Indigenous people, then you're not for the liberation of anything, really. And so I think that's the thing that makes Black vegans quite different, is that understanding that if that is your praxis, that is, if the reason why you're a vegan is to do with animal liberation, is to do with kind of environmental liberation, all of that understanding that our liberation is tied in, that it's actually all connected, and also the understanding of the things that prevent people from being able to access this way of eating as well.
Right.
We're often more aware of it than people who are like, I went to a PETA conference and what they're doing to the chickens.
The
Like,
pea
it's a
protein
completely...
cheese on my tacos was everything. I'll stop.
No,
Being serious.
no, 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 it's true. Like,
Maybe being
listen,
serious. The white vegans really scare me. So whenever I'll
yeah.
be honest. When I've heard, one of my very dear friends, Angel the Healer, is a Black vegan, and I've always been like, you know, like, but it's because this association with how whiteness is so pervasive that you're right, that Black folks don't even get the opportunity to engage in it, you
No,
know?
no. And also, we're not at the forefront of any of the conversations, really. I think there's only one person that I know really who's at, like, Christopher Sebastian is really a cool person to kind of follow and listen to in terms of his um, perspective and analysis about veganism from a Black perspective. And I think that's one of the issues. Like, whiteness ruins everything, right? Veganism isn't something they invented. This is something that has existed in lots of different cultures around the world, being plant-based. Some people are seasonally plant-based. Some people are just traditionally plant-based. Like, this is something that has always existed. And what happens is that, and this is the thing that bothers me a lot about the kind of white consciousness surrounding veganism. I'm going to say this and then I'll stop. Is the fact that people had their own ways of eating. You've come along, colonized people, been like, no, meat, 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 dairy, 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 eat it, have it. You've done that. And now, after you've infiltrated the whole
Is
thing
that
and
what we sound
brainwashed
like?
people for centuries, yeah, it is. That's literally what they've done. No, no, no.
Yes, I love it. Oh my God.
If you think about all of the kind of the programming, at one point they were trying to tell you that if you drink milk, that's going to add calcium to your
Oh
bones.
yeah, yeah,
We
yeah,
know
yeah, yeah. That was
scientifically
super
that that's not
propaganda,
true.
and I learned about that
Thank
in the
you.
documentary. Right.
I'm saying there's so much propaganda surrounding meat because these men wanted to make money, right? So you've done this whole thing. You've gone into places, colonized places, and also convinced them that meat is associated with power, it's associated with wealth. And so in order to express your wealth, the more meat you have, the more wealthy you have, and all this kind of wealth you have and all of this kind of stuff. You've gone and done that. And now you've gone maybe to Thailand for 2 weeks and you've gone, oh, tofu, and you've come back on this, maybe you played with some little monkeys on when you were going on your mountain trek or whatever, and now you're like, oh my God, they have little souls, and you come back
What?
and now you're like, why aren't you people looking after the chickens the way we look after and kiss our dogs? I don't understand, even though 2 weeks ago you were eating chicken as well.
Right.
And you've made it like a moral thing, despite the fact that this is something that you have created these conditions,
Right.
but now you're saying that the conditions you've created are wrong. That's the bit that I don't get. And then also penalizing people who don't have access to the conditions that you want to force everyone to have without actually creating conditions for them to be able to have them. Like that is, it's such a weird, well, no, it's not weird, it's white.
It's
That's
not
literally
weird,
what they do.
yeah. Like
That's
it's
literally
done
what they
on
do.
purpose. They are the moral
Yeah.
arbiters of everything.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's, for me, that is the biggest issue with it. And you could say on a fundamental level, it's like, oh no, but we're trying to make the world a better place. Okay, but let's start from where we are. Make the world a better place for the people who are in the world that you're in, right? There are so many things that you can do for communities in your vicinity,
Right.
that don't include comparing enslavement to battery farming. Like there are lots of different ways in which we can tackle current social issues. And it's like the same way you're going hard in the paint for animals that are being held in captivity is the same way we should be looking at the prison industrial complex. Like that is also people in captivity. If you're saying that if we're not doing speciesism and we're saying that everyone is equal, that all creatures are equal, then that also needs to be your concern. Don't talk to me about any animals if you're not talking to me about the things that are also of equal concern. That is my issue. That is my problem. But I will stop because I could go on forever.
Before you stop going on forever, I was cursed out 2 years ago. I'll never forget it because I wanted to visit the races in Saratoga, which is this very frou-frou, well-to-do place in upstate New York or whatever, right? And I said well-to-do because I was really hoping that y'all would understand my English. Thank you.
I
And
know
so,
that's good.
thank you. Okay,
We understand you, don't worry.
okay, I'm trying a little bit. Okay, thank you. I went to London one time. Okay, so anyway,
You well-to-do area.
my well-to-do, whatever. So the lady was like, I said I wanted to go and wear like a derby hat and this, that, and the third. And she was like, but what about the horses? And I was like, bitch, what about the fucking people who ride the horses? You don't give a fuck about them immigrant lives. You don't give a fuck about Black lives. Don't talk to me about no horse life. And everybody hated me because I said that. It's fine. I get dragged all the time. What I wanted to talk with you about was the connection between spirituality. And I know that Jumoke is, you are Nigerian born.
Yeah, Nigerian Yoruba.
Yoruba. Thank you. Thank you. So I just found out that I'm 29% Nigerian.
Wow.
Gang. And it's so funny because my whole life people have assumed that I was either Dominican or Haitian. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I was just like, I don't know where I come from. It's fine. So there's that. But I just did the ancestry thing and it's 27%, sorry, 29%. But anyways, I bring it up because I watched a documentary by this fine ass Black man. Don't know if you know him. His name is Jaimon Henson, and
He's the actor, model guy, right? Or
he's all the things. Okay, so yeah, he played in Amistad, and I don't even know what other movie, but he wrote and directed and then starred in this documentary called Roots to Heaven, and his origin is Benin, and he was talking about the Ifa tradition and how a lot of people shit on African traditional religions, but as far as like the sacrifices are concerned, but that the US is the largest sacrificer of animals, and I had never, like, I felt like Neil deGrasse Tyson, like mind blown. Like I had never even considered how much people who practice ATRs are definitely demonized, especially in Western culture, because it's not Christian or it's not Muslim or if it's not one of the Abrahamic religions or whatever. But and yet we are, you think about halal, you think about
kosher.
Thank you, and you think about even the production of meat in the U.S. and how much we waste, whereas that doesn't happen. Everything is a celebration for that animal. The animal is raised as one of the family, and also if the animal is sacrificed, it's not just for the sacrifice, it's also for, I don't know. So I don't even know if I landed there, but I just been thinking about meat a lot. I'm still gonna eat it. but also I think about it a lot just because I'm initiated. So do y'all have thoughts about that? Are y'all of different religions? What's going on with that?
Can I just say that it's about what you just said about you're still going to eat meat. I think what's most important is being conscious of your consumption, because it's not, and how, what you're taking into your body and how you're taking it into your body, and also that idea of waste. Am I taking what I need from the planet?
Right.
Am I taking more than I need? Am I giving back to the planet? And I think that is where people should be coming from. Not, oh, don't eat any meat. No, it's more like, okay, am I being intentional? Am I thinking about the process? Am I grateful for this thing that has given its life for me to sustain myself? Is this from indulgence? Is this avarice? Is this, and just being conscious of those things. And it is a spiritual thing. Look, life energy like never dies, right? So when something gives its life, its energy becomes part of your energy, right?
Right.
That's how energy works, right? And so it's just I think being conscious about those things. And not all of us have access to our own personal mini farm where we can make sure that the animals live a good life, so their spirit is good, so the energy in them is good before we
Not all of us
consume it,
have
right?
access to it.
Not all of us have access to that.
Mhm.
So I think it's what we can do is when we are kind of directly interacting with the food that we eat, and it sounds really airy fairy and kind of fanciful, but just kind of being conscious when we are kind of consuming creatures, if that's what we are deciding to do. Obviously I would be like, yeah, eventually maybe don't, but if you're going to, like, it's just
I feel
being
like I'm
aware.
sliding around there, but I think
Yeah,
my concern is that I'm also a bariatric patient. So
yeah.
even in my fatness, I'm still fat. I'm 285 pounds, but I'm
Mm,
a bariatric patient. And so protein consumption is such a big thing for me because I need
mm,
so much of it. So it's like, do
mm.
I drink liquid for the rest of my life or do I eat meat? So.
No, I mean, yes. I mean, there are lots of different forms of protein that not everyone can have. So I think it's individualized. If you have certain health conditions, there are certain ways in which you have to eat or you can't eat.
Right.
But to the spirituality thing, in terms of talking about the demonization of spiritual practices. First of all, Jumoke and I were on a course the other day about Yoruba Ifa. And one of the things I remember them talking about, and I know this from even some of the traditions that are from one of the cultures that I'm from, is that you're not just sacrificing animals every day willy-nilly. Like, to
Right.
sacrifice any kind of living thing has to be a major deal. Like, it's not like you're just, oh, today, Lord, I'd like some 20 pounds, so let me go and kill this goat. Like, that's not
Right. Right.
how
Right.
it
Right.
works.
Right.
And so even the comparison to battery farming and all of that isn't even, it's not, it's a false
It's a false
equivalency.
equivalence.
It's a false equivalency. Like, it doesn't, that doesn't, yeah, it's not possible. Um, but also, yeah, the demonization of our own traditions, right? Like, we talk about,
Right.
even if you look at idol, the idea, oh no, they're worshiping idols, they're pagans. I'm sorry, what is that cross thing that's in your church? What is that? What is that
And
picture?
that Christmas
Graven,
tree.
what is that Christmas? Listen, there are
Contemporary
so
idol.
many things. You're lighting candles. I thought that was something that only people who did like spiritual practices that weren't Christian did. Those kinds of things. And the reason why people,
Invocation of the Holy Ghost. Don't get me
thank
started.
you. And yeah, you're being possessed by something. Is that why you're speaking tongues? Like, the we forget the origins of some of the religions we have, but then we also forget the I guess I want to call it importation of our indigenous practices
Right.
into the colonized religions, right? There are things that we believed that we did not let go of, but you kind of got mixed in with what was kind of imposed on us. And so even the idea of being in the spirit isn't something that is in traditional kind of colonizer Christianity, that the
They
process through which,
stole it from us.
people shout. Yeah, but even shouting, the idea of shouting, the idea of, oh, the spirit coming on top of you and you not being able to control your body and all of that, that is something that comes from our indigenous spiritual practices. That is not something that comes from their Christianity. And so we go, oh no, but that's okay in our church, but don't call it something else. Don't use a name that's not Jesus. If you use a name that's not Jesus for this very same thing, or if you
Knowing
need,
damn
then it's
well no Episcopalians are speaking in tongues, okay? So speaking
and
of
so,
battery
yeah.
farming, I have to jump ahead because this is my second to last question. Battery farming, when you kept saying battery farming, I just kept thinking about sex. And so I wanted to know for what? Don't ask me about my associations, mind yours, right? So when I think about battery farming, I think about sex. And so something that I have always struggled with is as a disabled person, like how to have sex and have a conversation about how my abilities show up, right? And so like someone put their cell phone on my shoulder the other day. It was an innocuous thing, but I had
Wait,
this.
as though you were a table?
Yes.
Okay. Walk me through the process.
So I was getting fucked from behind or whatever, right? And
Oh, okay.
so like, well, Jumoke wanted to know that about the process. So I was getting fucked from behind, and the person reached over for their phone real quick and was like, "Hold up, I gotta take this call," and used the back part. And I was just like, "You have to," and I didn't want to let the person on the phone know what was happening, but I was like, I went like this.
Get off. That's fair. That's fair.
Thank you. Okay, so I felt like I overreacted. Here I am, penis full on or whatever. But no, that's not an overreaction.
I have
because
to take
it was
this call.
Anyway, I often answer my Facebook when I'm in the throes of passion. You know, so anyways, this is not about me. This is about us, right? So how hard is it? How hard is it, or how easy it is, or what kind of barriers do you have dating as a disabled Black femme? You know, like, is it the Blackness that comes up? Is it the strong Black woman trope? Is it the femme identity? Is it disability? Is it stature? Is it, you know, like what? Because I feel like no one is happy in love when you have as many intersections as we do.
I don't have anything positive to say. So Jumoke, do you have any good
My uterus just dropped.
Uterus
Listen.
just dropped. Dee
I've got my
if you don't
period.
pick
No,
it
I've got my
fuck
period.
back up and put it where it's supposed to be.
Thank you. Thank you.
Listen,
Right.
yeah.
Well, I mean, you've heard my stories, Kym. I don't know if I have
Yeah.
any positive ones. I have funny ones.
Yeah. I think what the thing about it is that we talk about this all the time, is that at different times your different intersections are going to be at the fore. And for dating, I don't know, for me, my fat Black disabledness is the thing that's at the fore most of the time, right? And I guess my skin being slightly darker than the average, or not the average, the desired Black woman, right? And I think
talk about colorism.
Yeah, and it's true. That's something that's very real. And also my features, phenotype is very important too. Like my features are very bulbous. I'm not ambiguous in kind of the feature region. There's no way you could change my skin out and be like, she could be, you know, it would never happen. You'd be like, oh, that's just an albino Black person. If you gave me white skin, you'd be like, no, but they're still Black.
I'm listening.
They're still Black. Do you know what I mean? Because my lips, my nose, like the shape of my face, where my forehead is, and all of that kind of stuff. So that very much affects the way people, like the desirability, especially in a place like England. It's an island, and the ideas of beauty here will be quite narrow. It's obviously whiteness is the top, as we know, like that's most of the time how it is in places like this. But the types of whiteness, there are grades. And then if you add fatness to it, if you add my height to it, if you add the phenotype and the skin color and my hair texture, or like the way I wear my hair, even if we, you know, that.
Do you wear your hair naturally?
Yes, and that is not necessarily something that is, it's quaint for some people. It's like, oh, they might say, oh yeah, I like a girl who's natural, but what they mean by natural is, you know, where the airbrushed women with the afro wigs that are like this big and like, and
The
they've
Amara
got
La
two line
Negra.
noses. Yeah,
Right,
they
right.
want that kind of, I'm not even Amara La Negra. No, that those coils might be too tight. Like they're too kind of 70s. They need something a bit looser, a bit more like ambiguous. I might be not, do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're going to be dark skinned, those,
1/16 Cherokee.
yeah, those curls
Not
better be
160.
loose.
I knew you was
um,
mixed, girl.
yeah, exactly. Like, oh, what you mixed with? Like, especially if I say that I'm from the Caribbean, like people will be like, oh yeah, oh, then it's interesting,
It's
because then you might
exoticism a
not
little bit.
be
Right,
black.
right,
Yeah.
right, right.
But it's, for me, I find that the disability is a huge thing, especially in the Black community. I only date Black people, because why torture myself? But then it's, again, it's kind of like,
Do
I
you
mean,
date men is what I really want to know.
I date men, I date
Why are we doing this
people,
to ourselves?
anyone. I date anyone, and
No,
I
agree
and
with
I
you.
realize that dating men is almost like shooting myself in the face on purpose daily, and talking to them is like shooting myself in the toes continuously with a machine gun. Like that's literally what it's like dealing with them. And so I understand that perhaps I'm a masochist on some level, because I keep entering these interactions like, oh, maybe not, perhaps they might be different, but no, it is an issue. And I think something happens when you're disabled, right? People, and when you're visibly disabled especially. So when I used to have an invisible disability, MS used to be invisible for me, but when people found out about it, it automatically changed their interaction with me. But now I don't necessarily get to go through that process of, let me pretend, and then
Right.
maybe I'll reveal. Now it's like they know, they see beforehand. So you might get people who fetishize you because it's like, oh yeah, I've never, one of the things they say to you, oh, I've never had sex with someone in a wheelchair before. It's like, I'm not connected to the wheelchair, you realize that. But the other thing they will say is like, you know, the other thing that it becomes is, so other than that kind of fetishization thing, sometimes it's like, oh, no one else will want you. Therefore, I am coming along with whatever BS that I'm coming along with. You should eat it up, because no, you are the bottom of the barrel. You know that you're the bottom of the barrel. I know that you're the bottom of the barrel. So therefore,
Were
you
you
should
in my living
willingly
room last night?
accept.
What the fuck?
This
No,
is
seriously,
this.
watch my live from yesterday. I verbatim what you just said is what the nigga was saying to me on the couch while I was live. Like, I mean,
No decorum. No decorum.
No,
none
but you
whatsoever.
don't get to have people be kind and considerate to you in the ways that they would be if they were trying to woo a woman who they did not consider to be less than. You don't get to have that. Even as a fat woman, you don't get to have that sometimes. And then you add disability to it. It's like there is the filter that exists for them in situations where they feel they have something to lose, where they feel that they are gaining something from the interaction, and that they're not the person in the complete power position.
Right.
You don't get that filter. That filter has disappeared for them, like because there's a certain level of dehumanization that takes place in the way that they view it. It's almost like the thing is, like, it's a very difficult thing to describe. You know, people can love their pets, but they don't necessarily see their pets as having fully fledged range of emotions. It's like, oh no, I know that I feed you and you're nice to me when I feed you and all this kind of stuff, but they don't think their pets necessarily experience like irritation sometimes, or they might be like, oh, they're angry. It's very simplistic, the ways in which they view it. So they might not temper their tone when they're upset, when their pet is in the room. They won't be like, oh, how is my mood going to affect my pet? They don't do that. And it's almost like a similar thing that goes on. So it's not completely that they don't think you have feelings. No, but it's just that your feelings don't really count. They're not the same as mine, because you're not the
Right.
same as me. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not the same as these other real women who
Right.
exist, who I have something to gain from, or who I feel like I'd be losing something if I didn't comport myself with decorum, if I didn't have decorum, if I didn't have charm, if I didn't have consideration, if I didn't, you know, think before I before I spoke. And I think that's what goes on. And so it's, in a lot of dating situations, you're not going to get the creme de la creme of treatment. You're not going to get wooed. You're not going to get, people are going to get straight to the point, you know. Yeah, I'm not really looking for a relationship right now. Even if they said they were looking for a relationship before they found out you had a disability, then all of a sudden it turns into, you know, I'm just looking for something casual. Can I come to your house? It's not going to be
Right.
let's go anywhere. It's going to be like, yeah, you know, I'm just thinking of chilling and
Right.
that thing. And actually, you know, it's similar to what sometimes Black trans women go through as well, right? We've spoken to, well, I've spoken to a few, and we spoke to Diamond
Diamond
Styles the other
Styles.
day, and you
Yo,
know,
me
it,
and Elle Hearns have this conversation. I'm here for it. Me and Elle Hearns
yeah,
have this conversation often about how there is similarity between, well, we haven't talked about being disabled, but there's similarity between fat girls and trans women. Like, you know what I'm saying?
mm,
Like, you know, in the sense that we're the hidden, we're the
yes,
undesirables, right? But
yeah,
I had not considered it also from that triple cripple visionary, you know, when we talk about disability.
yeah. Because also, I think the thing that, what makes disability even more apparent in terms of the treatment is the fact that we are hidden and forgotten in all areas of society. Even when we're talking any Black liberation, even that goes on, because I only really care about Black people in that way. Like, any Black liberation that goes on, like, we're not ever really part of those conversations, whether it's
Right.
trans, whether it's women's liberation, whether it's to do with Black men, like disabled people. Like, you don't hear anyone say, yeah, and our disabled brothers and sisters, like, we're not, when, even for the people who have had disabilities that are affected by police brutality, people very rarely mention their disabilities. Like, it's very rarely, we don't talk about the fact that a lot of people who are affected, if not most, are by police brutality and violence, have disabilities. We don't talk about that. And so, in that sense, that kind of erasure of us completely adds to and makes it worse. So we experience higher rates of domestic violence and
Right.
sexual abuse and all of that stuff. But no one, when we're even erased from the things that we are at the front of, if that makes sense, in terms of
Right.
being affected by. And so, yeah, of course, that's going to translate into dating. Of course, that's going to directly translate into that, because I'm not even supposed to exist. And
It's
so, if
not
you're not even
sexy
supposed
for
to,
disabled people to exist.
no, exactly. So, of course, the dregs of society is
What?
where, like, is what my dating pool is supposed to be. And if I refuse for that to be
Then that's why
what
your ass
I'm
is still
supposed to,
single. I feel like I'm talking to a mirror. I feel like this is a conversation I have with myself often. My best friend, I haven't seen her in 2 weeks, bought me flowers, and I, like, right before this episode, and I
mm,
broke out in tears. Like, tears. Like, and she was like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And I was just like, "All the sex I've been giving away, and this is the romance I get." You know what I'm saying? Like, the fact that our friendships with one another, especially amongst Black femmes, is actually more forgiving and actually more full of romance than the actual people we bump the uglies with. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I just don't understand. I mean, I understand it. I'm not supposed to be here. I understand it that at 280 pounds, I'm not supposed to be like, and yeah, I get on top. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not supposed to
mm,
be involved in any of that shit. And
yeah,
it's hard living out loud. I love what y'all say about how you live your lives unapologetically. It is hard being both bridge and human. It is hard being unapologetic and feeling like you have to apologize for how you've landed. And I'm not gonna cry again. So
mm,
just like shut the fuck up. She's like, please don't. But I just want to say, like, thank y'all so much. absolute last question is a question I ask all of my guests. I'm literally getting emotional. It's a question I ask all of my guests. It's a two-pronged question because as both of you are complicated, I am also complicated. What, if anything, did we leave out of today's conversation? I know I'm supposed to be the host. There was all sorts of technical issues and we lost some time, but is there anything that y'all were like, oh shit, Dee didn't even bring this up. Dee Dee went off script a long time ago. Dee, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, is there anything that you would want my following to know? And then the second part is, if you watch a show or don't watch a show, it doesn't really matter. This is episode number 64, so woo woo. But is there anyone you would like to hear from? Like, is there anyone you would like to be like, okay, maybe you should interview this person? Because I've been running this podcast like a Mary Kay production. You know, I've been selling hotcakes out the back of my car, like just trying to get everybody and their moms on here. So
Jumoke?
Jumoke is like, I'm going to bed.
What was the first question?
Nigga, I don't know. So like, was there anything that I left out of the conversation?
Well, I mean, you can't cover everything because, I mean, this is such a rich source. This is such a rich and thick and full vein that you can tap. But what I will say, and something we often discuss, is that it is within the margins. It is those that have been most marginalized, erased, forgotten, just generally ignored, that you can get the true richness of life's experience. So get to the true marrow of what it means to be human. So when we consider those that are disabled, those that are trans, those that are fat, those that are everything that white supremacy has campaigned and continued to campaign as the other, those are the spaces, the places, and the faces that we should revere and look to learn from.
Right.
Because with the way that the entire world has been set up, it's really rather hegemonic. It's like, this is what you should aspire to.
Right.
And it doesn't matter if you're in Europe, if you're in North America, it doesn't matter wherever you are. It's like, this is what you should aspire to. And so much color, so much vividness, so much delight is being lost because we've been told to aspire to this one thing that is frankly dull, boring, and just violent for the sake of violence.
Yeah.
And I will say, reach out to those that live life unlike you. And don't make it weird. It's like, hey, you're trans, right? Cool, let's have a conversation. Don't do that. You'll get a left and you will deserve that left. But it's just like, rage against the white supremacist, capitalist, ableist, racist piece of shit machine, because you're missing out on so much. And so many lives and stories are lost when we're all aspiring to be one thing. Because first of all, never gonna fucking get there. A lot of white people can't fucking get there. Too many of them are fat, too many of them are trans, too many of them are disabled. Like, they also don't meet this impossible standard, right? So fuck all that noise. Yeah, like, don't discount, what I will say is, like, don't discount those that have been continuously discounted, because you are actually losing out. And when you're trying to get to the marrow of what the human experience actually is, pay for it.
Right.
Don't try and get it subsidized. Don't try and get it for cheap. Don't try and get it for free. Pay for it, because like, these lived experiences, like, people have had to go through trauma. Like, a lot of these lived experiences, this learning, this knowledge, it comes from trauma that is at the hands of oftentimes people that are their bosses, that are their teachers, that are the police that just won't leave them alone. So yeah, and that's literally, you know, like why we created the Triple Cripples, because so much is lost, so much is and it's not even that people realize that something is being lost, because they don't consider it something worthy. It's like, oh, I've lost something. It's like, I haven't lost anything, you know. It
Right.
hasn't yet, yeah, it hasn't yet been valued. So we're creating, I mean, we have created it and continue to create it for those that have so much to give, and just encouraging them to be themselves, to live out loud. Like, space has been carved for you, will continue to be carved for you, and we are very aware that we're standing, you know, on the shoulders of giants that have, you know, paved this path for us before, and we're just trying to continue it a little bit further with the time that we have. Yeah, and that's it. That's
Thank
all I
you.
gotta say.
No,
Jumoke
thank you. That's all
president.
you had to say? That was profound. What the fuck? That's all I have to say.
You get my vote.
In it.
In it, yes,
In it.
in it, Twitter.
Brexit Twitter. That's all I know about. I'm sorry.
Yeah, please
Better.
stop.
Not
That
that I
one,
haven't done better. That I haven't done better.
that wound is still fresh.
That wound is still fresh. Hey, we need a
Yeah.
husband. All of us.
Oh, man, yes. Come on,
Over.
let the Niger out.
I need a new husband. That's what I need.
Get three, get one.
Yes,
One for each month. I think that'll be good.
Listen,
Spread out.
I have one when you can have them all. That's what I say.
Yeah, man. Harem things. That's what,
I
you know,
just
we
don't think
validate parking for harems.
yeah. I don't think dudes are capable of I don't think they're right now at a place of evolution where they can fulfill all the needs
It's
of one woman.
unsafe.
Like,
It's unsafe. Yes.
yeah.
We had a moment of silence for all the niggas that lost it.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys aren't making it. But yeah, it's been a pleasure to be here, and kind of,
Thank you.
even though we're sleepy delirious right now, mine comes out in a hyperactivity. Jumoke's comes out in like very nonchalant, listen, let me just get to the point, my friend.
Right.
But yeah, it's been a pleasure to be here, and I think just to talk, you know, it's so important that we have these types of conversations, especially these cross-border conversations, because there are more lines that join us than divide us. And actually, from my fight, there are things that you'll be able to use for your fight, and from your fight there'll be things I'll be able to use for my fight. And actually, if all of us listen, we are a global diaspora, right? We like to think in the terms of borders and kind of flags and all of that. None of that shit is real. None of it is real. None of it. So it's important that we connect with each other and make sure that we are aware of the needs that we all have, so that we can be making the world a better place for us. We are the world majority, FYI. So we need to know what we need. We need to know what's going on with us around the globe, not just what's going on within our borders. Like, it's so important, because that also gives us a handle on, look, you're dealing with this giant machine of white supremacy. They're not just dealing blows in North America. They're dealing blows around the globe. Now, if you're saying you're trying to fight an enemy, why are you only looking at their left toe, please? You have to look at their entire body. You have to know what they're doing, which direction they're running in, what they're doing. You have to be looking at their body language, listening to their language, what their speech patterns. You have to be observing, what are they reading, you have to know them in order to be able to fight them. And you can't know them from the little toe they're showing you. You can't. So we have to talk, we have to connect. And we also have to understand that what we are experiencing may not be the be all and end all to this machine. It will be manifesting in lots of different ways in different places, and we have to be open to understanding how it's manifesting there, and not doing kind of like hierarchical things, but being like, okay, so it operates in all of these different ways. Okay, so now I understand it a bit better, and now we can do A, B, or C. And kind of being open to that. It's very easy to hold on to your struggle as the only struggle that matters, and the only one that should be taking precedence. And it's like, no, look, in order to understand your struggle better, it's even better if you understand how it fits into a global context, right? because we are the globe. And so, yeah, we have to connect and
We
we have
are
to
the
love each other.
I
world.
knew Jumoke was
We
gonna go
are the
start singing.
children.
I felt it. I
We
felt it.
are the ones to
Delirious
make it
is
better.
where we've
Okay.
landed, y'all. But Ada has joined you with the fucking hand wave.
Oh, but what I will say, just one thing, just to add on real quick, what you were talking about, the romance that you get from your
Friends, yeah.
femme relationships. I think not enough emphasis, I would say this, not enough emphasis
Yeah.
is put on that, because there is so much love to be
Yeah.
found outside of the romantic, outside
Yes.
of this is a person that I'm in
Yeah.
a sexual relation, coupley sort of relationship with, like those that actually bring you flowers, that, you know, you can call them up and just have a conversation that lasts for 5 minutes or for 5 hours and you're not bored of each other. Like, that is love. And that's
Yeah.
where you should really ground yourself in, because if you leave it to some of these cats out here, I mean, you will get fucked up.
Yeah. And
I
also,
mean,
why
a phone
do we
on your shoulder, you should have
exactly
charged. But yeah,
money?
so
But yeah,
yeah.
and it's also like, why do we place so much emphasis on romantic love, right? We have to think about why we do that. Why do we place so much emphasis on it? And if we do place so much emphasis on it, why does it get to be less than our non-romantic relationships?
And the
Why
thing
do
that
we
we
not
yearn
place the
for.
same demand? Pardon?
Sorry, and the thing that we yearn for. Like, even though we have so
Yeah,
much to be grateful for
yeah.
with our friendships and the romance that we experience there, for some reason, when we attach romance and sexual proclivity to this desire for
Mm,
being in romance, you know,
mm.
we kind of associate it with our self-worth, you know.
And that's, some of that is programming. We have to be honest about that. Some of that is
yeah,
programming. Some of that's
we're
the way we're
told.
programmed. But if we're going to be conscious about it, we have to say, okay, cool. Even if you want to place that emphasis on romantic interactions, it should not be less than, the interaction quality should not be less than your non-romantic interactions. If someone isn't coming equal or better than your friendships, if you're not able to be as open with them, if you're not able to feel as loved and appreciated and centered, if you're not able to have a safe space where you can converse and all of that kind of stuff that we expect from our friends, if you can't expect the loyalty and openness and trustworthiness and the kind of laughter and sharing of ideals and that relaxedness, if you can't have any of that stuff, is it a romantic interaction? What it should have, it's supposed to be something that enhances, it's supposed to be, it's sold as this level above, right? So then it should be all of this and more, not
Plus,
just
Right.
this. Then it's not more than this. If all you're getting it from it is this empty, hollow kind of, okay, we're having sex but
pennies.
everything else is trash, then we really have to be like, is this a scam? Like, it's a scam, then it's just a scam, and you don't want it to
Right.
be a scam. So therefore, and the thing is, dudes keep getting away with giving us scams because we aren't demanding from them the same quality of relationship that we demand. Listen, if everyone was demanding the same quality of relationship that we demand from our friendships, the same standards, listen,
Ooh,
do you know there was way that
I feel
some of
like
us
personally
talk to our
attacked. What
friends?
the fuck, Kim?
Yes, no, we're not if everyone
She's
were
talking
demanding
to
those
all of
standards, if everyone was demanding those standards, these men would be out here begging. They would be out here begging because no one would be interacting with them because they hadn't developed themselves to a point where they were centering others, to a point where they were able to sustain conversations, to the point where they were able to see you beyond your value to them, beyond your use to them. It would be a
What's the first
completely
time you
different.
said no to a man and meant it?
Oh,
What's the
I've
first
been
time I said
saying
no to
no,
him?
and I mean it every single motherfucking
Jumoke,
time.
Jumoke
I
is
don't
the
play
real
those
queen.
games though.
And you know, Jimmy taught me a lot. And
Okay.
though I
We
know
need to
all of
have a
this stuff,
session then.
we need
Because
to
this
have a
nigga just
session.
asked me, like, when I will, you know, I got crochet, right? And when he
Is
said,
that yeah?
when he said, can I borrow some money? I had this sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach like, what is the price this month? Like, you know what I'm saying? Because every single man I've ever dated has always been on some, can I borrow some money shit. And so I thought it was going to be like an ask of 50, 60 bucks or whatever. This nigga say $500. I felt like Peppa Pig, like click, like you know, and I was so proud of myself.
One time, you were out of there.
And I said, no. I said, are you wild? I said, today is the first. My full rent, I'm a single mom. Regardless of what you think of my platform, my rent is due today. My husband is a whole immigrant here on a student visa. Like, no, I cannot give you 500. Are you wild? Are you listening to yourself right now? And sometimes I just want to be a respectful, monogamous, married woman, but that's just not who I am. So,
and you don't have to be like, you set the terms and conditions of like every single interaction that you have. And my thing is just kind of like, if you're just trying to get your phallic needs met, that is absolutely okay. Yes. But it's just a case of like, everybody needs to know what the frig it is, like at the beginning. Like, don't ask me for no $500 when
I was like, in yen?
Like, are you lost?
Do you want it in Cuban pesos? Like, what?
No, peso, girl, you would have stopped. But it's just a case of, yeah, as long as everybody knows the rules of engagement, because people, especially people of the masculine persuasion, will try to get as much out of you as possible. And they've been raised to get as much out of you as possible.
I agree with
So you need to Peppa Pig, click. The number you have dialed has not been recognized.
So much was expecting me to say yes, that when I said my rent is due on a third,
you didn't even need to do, Dee.
He said no. He was like, "I'll get it back to you before then." I was like, "No. You misheard the no. Like, not you get it back."
See, the thing is, Jumoke is too direct. My father says this thing to me, right? He says, people don't always need to know what it is that you're feeling or that you're thinking, right? You could have just sometimes as well, like in that situation. And Jumoke, you know me, I was in that situation not long ago.
Thank you for being honest, because I think that people think, you know, it doesn't happen to everybody.
No, trust me, I've been in that situation too.
Ago. And one of the ways of dealing with it, because the thing is, these dudes they're slick all the time. And one of the things I've realized is that I'm not going to allow you to make me a villain in this story. So here's what I'm going to do. So there are two things that I thought of doing. The first one was like, oh yeah, sure. Let me write you a contract. I'm going to send you a contract for me loaning you this money. And then if you sign it and get it back to me, then we can proceed. 9 times out of 10, someone's not going to carry on that interaction. They'll be like, sign. But because a lot of these dudes are like, contract,
so you can take me
for free. Yeah, exactly. But the other way is to be like, oh my God, I really wish I could. You know, I would give it to you if I could, but right now I'm just so low. Oh, I wish you'd asked me yesterday, because then I could have given it to you and do all of the sweet.
I like this manipulation. What have I been doing this whole time?
Listen, no, because that's what they do. But you're just doing to them what they're doing to you. That's exactly what they're doing to you. You're just matching their energy. And
this is big femme energy right now, so thank you very much. Thank you.
You're just matching their energy. It's like, and then they come away like, oh no, man, because it triggers something in this, I don't know, this masculinity thing in them to be like, oh, she's so down. She would have done it if blah blah blah. Meanwhile, you yourself, you know, that necessarily that was not the case, but because they respond to nonsense, you give them the nonsense, let them eat it, enjoy. They come back next time. Oh, babes, oh, I wish I could have. Oh, it's the second time. I feel so bad. You don't feel bad. Oh, I feel so bad. I wish I could really help you out. How much is it? Oh, and then check in on them. Find out if they managed to borrow the money from somewhere.
Right.
It's really good. It's helpful.
Kym is a wonderful actress. I can book you in for some classes.
No, seriously, I'll pay you. Look, that $500 that I should have given, almost should have given.
$500.
I felt like, you remember, I don't know, like y'all watch American commercials when they be like, New York City, like, from the Pace commercials. Like, I felt like fucking Soldier Boy when he was like, Drake.
Oh, I love that. And then he gets up out of the chair. What?
And he was
Listen,
so, the thing was, he was so genuine. And I'm like, you just got finished telling me that some girl want to take you on a trip to
No, but
Montego
that's the
Bay.
thing. They are so genuine. So you also have to be so genuine.
Yeah.
Oh, you're so romantic. Thank you.
You need to be genuine.
All right.
Yeah.
Y'all, thank y'all
It's a
so
wild
much.
thing.
This was so dope. And I feel like y'all don't even know my life. But thank you so much. Thank you for being on this episode of The Full
Thank you for
Set.
having
I
me.
appreciate y'all coming out of your beds to come chat with me across the pond. So thank you.
Thank
You're
you
more
for
than
having
welcome.
us.
I'm going to continue wearing these sunglasses at night. These were actually to protect my eyes from the light, and I forgot. And so now
This
I
whole
shall
time,
return.
we just out here being bug-eyed for no reason.
Yeah, no. All this time I could have been looking cool and cute and really.
You were looking cool and cute, but you always look cool and cute.
So. All right.